Yo, what's up guys? My name is Wang, and today I have a pretty special video for those of you that are grinding your way through competitive this season and may potentially be hitting a wall with your progress. At the start of the season, I was placed in Gold 3 and have had to work my way up from Gold to Diamond. First of all, this is going to be completely geared towards playing Cypher because he allows you to gain value out of playing smarter and not necessarily only from having solid mechanical merit. Another thing to note before we move further is that my time in competitive has been split between playing in a 5-stack as well as solo queue, and as long as you're an effective communicator, you'll be able to bring value to your teammates, especially when on defense. Cypher is a really strong hero because one of two things happen when an attacking team realizes that there's a Cypher on the other side. The first is that they can waste utility and time every round in an effort to push through Cypher's traps while also putting themselves in very exposed positions. Or, alternatively, what happens the most for me is that they just stop pushing the site that they believe the Cypher to be on. In the scenario where your opponent stops pushing your site altogether, which happens more often than not, you and your team can start fortifying the other site with an extra player, or you can surprise them by swapping over to that site from time to time to catch them off guard. The most important thing you can do as a Cypher is to ensure that you are not predictable. If you put the same traps in the same spot every round, the other team can find a way to exploit your predictability. But if you put traps in unexpected spots and position yourself to capitalize on this, you will not only gain value from these kills, but you will tilt certain players just because of how frustrated they will get. Moving into the next portion of this video, I want to show you some of the setups that I use on all of the maps to help keep you less predictable while bolstering your team's morale. For the first map, we're here on Ascent. I usually play B Site because I really like the one-way cages you can play here on defense, as well as the 3 main positions that I like to hold here, depending on how your opponents like to smoke the site. The trick for the trapwires is to use a number of different setups and spots so that the opponent can't always predict where they will be. I also like to position myself in 3 main spots, towards CT spawn, towards the back of B Site, and then on the other side of B Site. I also like to position my camera so that it can see into B main so I can gather info for my team early on in the round. The one-way cages are also really good from all 3 spots since you will be able to see either your opponent's feet inside of B main or inside the cage from the angle closest to B main. Here are some additional trapwire spots that are great if your opponent likes to set up in these areas. If they trip these and you are on B site, they are both wall bangable as well. When attacking B site on Ascent, I always start by clearing market, then CT, and then the back towards B site. Cypher can use his cages to break lines of sight as well, so I like to throw them when opponents may be waiting to ensure we can push in on top of them. I always make sure to max out my cages on attack because they only cost 100 credits and can help your team break some major sight lines early on. So on A site, there are 2 great one-way cages as well, and here are the lineups for them. Sometimes I like to place both on one side or the other and then just angle myself to be able to see their feet, but they can't see mine. These can really help you to slow pushes, and in some cases, if you're rocking in Ares on the second round, you can obliterate entire teams if they are way too eager to push you. Here are some trapwires you can use on A site. Again, nothing fancy here, but I think the most important thing is to ensure that you are not predictable, so the chances of your opponent running through them are higher and almost always guarantee kills. I really like this trapwire because even after closing the door on it, it stays in effect, and if it's broken, your opponent usually doesn't expect this to be here. With A site, sometimes I like to play more passively, so they expect that I'm not there until they trip some of my more conservative trapwires as well. For these rounds, I may not even put a camera up so they don't hear me on the site. In the event that the opposing team pushes the other site, make sure to grab your trapwires before you rotate to begin the retake, since they are pretty expensive and can really add up in the long run for your games. So moving on from here, let's take a look at Split. This is one of the most notoriously annoying maps to push a Cypher, especially on B site. To start, there is a ledge over top of the doorway that allows you to place one-way cages that allow you to see into garage. Sometimes I just stack a couple of these on the doorway and I play for picks. For the trapwires, there are a lot of spots you can use, including these diagonal ones when placed on the grate on the floor. The further back you place your trapwires, the more passively you should be playing to take advantage of them if your opponent gets cocky. There are some solid spots at the back of the site that I use if they're using shock darts to break them, and I also play a trapwire in heaven if they've been pushing middle to B. I play my camera in a pretty standard spot that allows me to see into garage or heaven, which allows me to be certain of if I'm in danger. When I am attacking this site, I sometimes use my camera to check to see if anyone's peeking at the back of site, and then as I move up, I use a cage on the right side to block the line of sight from heaven. I continue to throw down cages while my team is pushing on to ensure that we are blocking critical sight lines and getting the opportunity to set up on site. This may vary based on where my opponent has been playing historically. Moving on to defending A Site, again, I don't have a ton of tricky spots here, I just use a number of different standard traps and cages to ensure that I can catch them off guard if they have been bulldozing the site as a result of holding down B Site up until that point. I use these rounds to try to reset their mental conditioning of what they know about our team, because these are usually an absolute slaughter. Sometimes I like to pick up a judge and play really close to punish a sloppy execution. One of the cameras I really like here has eyes on ropes and A main, which allows me to play a little more passively. And sometimes I also like to leave a camera in A heaven to be able to clear ropes and heaven together. On attack, I usually either place a cage in front of A crossing or up on ramp to cut off sightlines. This allows my team to engage only one opponent at a time. So far, I have splurted out a lot of information in a very short period of time, so I'll save both Bind and Haven for a part 2 if this video is well received. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss out on the next 2 maps. And if I continue to rank up and do well, I'll share some of the tips I learned from playing with some of the more talented members of our community. If you made it to the end, thanks for watching, and as always, Wang out.